Various reports have continued to implicate the Uganda police in the torture of journalists. The 2012 Press Freedom Index, launched in Kampala early this year, for example, revealed that police was top of the list of media rights violators. The index, prepared by Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda, showed that in 2012 alone, the police made 42 attacks against journalists out of the 85 reported cases, of which one journalist was murdered. The report also noted that the police continued to attack journalists using direct pepper spray, arrests, stealing of gadgets, and detention without trial. But as the Ugandan media fraternity marked the World Press Day, much needs to be done to ensure journalists work in a secure environment. This is the position reached upon today during a public debate on the measures needed to improve journalists' working conditions.
The government still needs to have a hand in the aspects of training to ensure that we can evolve our profession.
Being oppressed so much by the security organs, for example, the Uganda Police Force. So I think we need string measures which can help us to overcome such.
We are appealing to the government to come out to see how they can solve our problems.
The Ugandan government has often been heralded for liberating the media space in Uganda. Practitioners, however, urge much more needs to be done in ensuring that journalists are respected by their employers, the public, and the government. But Information Minister Mary Karero Okrut has urged tortured journalists to use the prevailing laws to ensure justice is achieved.
You can see whoever is aggrieved goes to court. Go to court. That's my simple advice. But where you think the ministry can come in, as I said, we have an open door policy, just come to me.
Kampala Metropolitan Police spokesperson Id Ibn Senkumbi says the force is undergoing training on how to handle journalists, especially during riots.
We initiated the trainings for our officers on matters of human rights and handling of other partners in riots, like journalists, when there are situations which are actually rioters, or any situation which requires working together with the media.
Meanwhile, in another media meeting organized to commemorate the day, media practitioners have called upon government to put in place a minimum wage for journalists to end the exploitation by employers. The meeting was organized by the Uganda Media Development Foundation.
Journalists cannot live in this country a decent life. They cannot afford sending their kids to school. They cannot afford treating themselves, and they cannot even sustain themselves well.
The public affairs officer at the U.S. Embassy, Daniel Travis, observed that exploitation of journalists by their employers in Uganda was a big problem that needed to be solved to ensure an efficient media fraternity.
Unfortunately, at times that can drive down wages, so it remains to be seen how Uganda will find a viable long-term solution to this issue. The United States itself is going through similar things as we have media houses consolidating and fewer.
This view was, however, contested by the Director of Information and National Guidance at the Office of the Prime Minister, Kambarage Kakonge, who said a minimum wage cannot be attained in Uganda since many youths are unemployed and can thus work for any pay.
If I paid you 100,000 shillings and you rejected it, somebody would come in for 70, because that's the situation is. So it becomes a bit difficult now to determine the lowest wage.
This has been compiled by Becca Zena and Kabale Ivan Elvis, NBS Television.